there are certain people in the paperwork whose names have been redacted. And you could assume that their names have been redacted because they're cooperating.
Mm-hmm.
Is that usually the case?
Probably. I would assume so.
So the fact that there's at least 3 or 4 names that I saw redacted, one of which is the shooter, one of the shooters, one of which is the person who allegedly told the OTF guys.
But let's not assume nothing, though. Let's not assume anything.
Okay. Look, Big Meech didn't get caught with any cocaine.
Right. You don't have to.
He never talked on the phone. But there was a whole bunch of witnesses
saying you did this,
who said he did this. There is his brother who did talk on the phone a lot, Southwest T. You know, I remember we had an interview with Meech that basically said that T was just in love with the phone. He would just talk and talk and talk, and all of it was recorded. And that was it. They both had to plead out to, I think, 25 or 30 years. I think it was like 30 years they both pled out to. Now they're both out.
They home now, though.
But that was a hell of a stretch they had to do.
Come with the road. Get bumpy sometime.
Yeah. And, you know, look, I felt a certain type of way because I just interviewed Quando Rondo. And we talked about Lil Pop getting killed and him being there and stuff like that. And, you know, what I really didn't like was, you know, and they said that this isn't true, but for me it is what it is. There was news footage of the scene where, you know, Quando's cousin Lil Pop was dead and Quando was screaming over him, you know, just unbelievably, you know, traumatized. And Lil Durk puts out a song, and that scream is like being played throughout the song. You see what I'm saying? And the words in the song kind of dance around that topic. You see what I'm saying? But the actual scream is the actual scream. And I'm just like, man, like, these new rappers really try to keep it real to just insane levels. I had never heard of a rapper from the 90s or the 2000s that are rapping about their actual crimes.
You can't compare it, and I think the fans are complicit to some degree because I feel like they egg them on.
Of course, slide for Vaughn, hashtag slide for Vaughn. Why aren't you sliding for Vaughn?
I'm not even speaking on them. I'm just saying in general, like, you know, a lot of artists, they got popping because they was into it with somebody else.
Coolio. His biggest song is the song where he's at the graveyard, holding up the pictures of his dead enemies, some of which are like teenagers.
Crazy.
50 million views.
Right. So what they tell you about the appetite of the public.
And how did his life end up?
Yeah.
Shot dead.
Indeed.
In a hotel parking lot for a party he was throwing in Florida.
I was in Florida when that happened too. That's crazy.
Really?
I was in Orlando, yeah.
I talked to him, man. I begged him to move out of Florida, man. I said, yo, like you're going to lose your life out here.
Right, but to go back to what we're saying about having the opportunity to live, he hasn't, his eyes may not have opened yet.
No, man, he was, I mean, from everything I understood, and me and Coolio did an interview and we continued to talk, I think the problem that he was facing was he had all these people that he was still supporting in Florida. And he couldn't just say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to move to California and just start a whole new life and you guys are on your own. I think he felt some sort of, because I think these are the people that have been protecting him all these years and riding with him and, you know, going along with everything that he was sort of pushing. I think he felt a certain level of guilt that he needed to stay to still support these people. That's my impression.
Right.
Ultimately, we won't know. But I feel that just happens too often. And then you have people like Chief Keef, that blow up and say, okay, I'm
Got
out.
out the way.
Yep, going to move to Calabasas. Never going back to Chicago for 10 years. Y'all go kill yourselves over there. I'm going to be living in my mansion with my little group of friends and my cousins and my baby mothers, and I'm still going to be a legend, even though I don't go back to, you know. And yeah, people will talk. Oh, you don't come back to the hood. Who cares? I'm
about
rich.
You when you do come back.
Yeah.
You can't satisfy them.
Do you ever feel going back to your old neighborhood sometimes can get dicey? Because there's new generations,
right?
That may not recognize what you did that many years ago.
I try to keep it like this. I try to keep a purpose around everything we got going on. You know, I just did Maino Day, the first time, on my mother's birthday. The city allowed me to block off Marcy Avenue between Green and Lafayette. 2 city blocks, all right? 2,000 people out there in the middle of the hood. Purpose, we giving back, we giving opportunity. I had a stage set up for the local artists. I had rides for the small kids. I had health care out there for families. I had Soaring Medical Labs out there for, you know, doing scans to see if you had blood pressure. I had food, I had drinks, I had everything. So I'll go back with a purpose. I do come back to my neighborhood. I do pop up. You might see me come through, you know, on the bikes or the, you know, in the cars. You might see me pull up at a block party, but you know, it is what it is. You know, it's danger in every element. You know, when I go outside and we go to a hosting, you know, niggas is not making it back from clubs. Niggas not making it back from shows. Every time you get on a plane or go out of town, you gotta say to yourself, yo, we gotta be careful because we wanna make it home. So, you know, I'm not the dude going to the hood just to be going over there posting up just to take videos and pictures and just to show you that I'm near, you know. But I always wanna have a relationship with my community. I always wanna be able to come back. I always want them to see me, to see what I was able to become, and I also want to inspire them. You know, when we was getting ready to do Maino Day, you know, I was coming to the hood, looking at the site, you know, walking up and down the blocks. You know, I want them to see me. I want them to understand, and this is like how you start don't always determine how you finish. So I want to be that inspiration. I want to be that motivation.
No, that's dope, man. Like, I've been spending more time in Brooklyn recently because I used to, when I first moved to New York, I was basically sleeping on a couch on Church and East 18th.
Flatbush.
So I was spending some time near Flatbush last few months. So I decided to go down and walk to my old block. And I mean, it was crazy because I hadn't been there since 2002, right? About 20, 23 years. And the one thing that struck me was it looked exactly the same.
Right.
It was not gentrified. There wasn't new buildings. It wasn't. It looked exactly the same buildings, same feel. And it just got me thinking, like, most people on this block 23 years later, if they're still alive,
they might still be here.
They're probably still there. They probably have similar lives.
Than when you left.
And I think about where my life is right now.
Right.
Like, I've got mansions, I got apartments in New York, got studios, I drive whatever I drive, I could retire. Well, you know, it's I'm like a completely different human being, but if I had stayed there and just accepted, okay, this is what my life is, I would still potentially just be there. It it gave me the chills.
Right. Sometimes you got to go back sometimes to peek at it to see how far you came and appreciate how far you came.
Yeah, it was. It shook me up. It shook me up because you don't know where things are gonna go.
That's right. That's right.
One stumble, one bad move.
Could have been you.
Could have been me. I think of all the times I could have lost my life.
That's right.
I used to go to people's studios with a camera and they'd pull out guns, wave them all in the camera. One gun could have went off.
Would have been the end of Vlad.
You know,
DJ Vlad the Butcher.
Going to people's hoods. They tuck in their gun before the interview starts. Their head is on a swivel.
Right.
I'm
They
like,
got beef.
They got beef with God knows who.
Right. You get hit.
It feels like they're anticipating a drive-by at this point. This was with Lil Eazy-E's son. I clearly remember this. Yeah, we're in front of his grandparents' house. And I'm like, shit. Like, I remember when I interviewed him, I mentioned that. I'm like, he's like, yeah, well, I had the gun just in case, you know, to protect you as well. And I'm like, well, I don't do that shit anymore. You got to come to my studio now. This shit's too dangerous.
You're trying to keep it too real.
Yeah.
Keep it too real, you keep it too dumb.
Yeah, man. I'm you know.
Keeping it real goes wrong.
At 51, man, I'm very cautious. I'm very cautious about what I do, man.